You two will never be happy.
Her mocking words echoed in my mind. That won't happen. I will be happy with Michael and our baby. Determined, I fought to give birth to our baby.
I'm sorry. I'm late.
5 hours after the birth, Michael rushed in, and just seeing him made me feel relieved. Look, this is our daughter. I showed our baby to Michael, expecting him to be overjoyed. However, his reaction was completely unexpected.
What? No, this can't be.
Michael? Contrary to my expectations, Michael began to tremble.
Why did this happen?
What's wrong? What happened? I was confused by his reaction. Then I noticed that his gaze wasn't directed at me or our daughter. Michael, what are you seeing? I asked, thinking his sixth sense was showing him something.
Actually,
Michael began to speak hesitantly, explaining the situation. His words left me in complete shock. I'm Emily, 26 years old, and I'm an engineer as well as a part-time homemaker. I was born and raised in my hometown as the youngest child, and I was spoiled by everyone around me. Of course, I was also properly scolded when I did something wrong, so I believe I grew up as a typical, normal woman.
You were always smiling and never caused any trouble.
My mom often said that about me. Apparently, I was always smiling since I was little, and I was able to keep myself happy. My brothers were always causing chaos, but I was easy to take care of. At first, I didn't think much of it when I heard these stories, but when I became an adult and met my future husband, Michael, I learned the truth.
hey, you're the new hire, right? Do you have a moment to chat? You might not believe this, but I actually have a sixth sense.
According to him, there are always people who seem like my ancestors watching over me with a smile. He thought I must be a wonderful person loved by my ancestors, which is why he reached out to me. To be honest, I didn't believe in spirits or anything like that. But from his serious expression, it didn't seem like he was lying. Maybe it was my ancestors who kept me happy when I was a kid. So I shared with him the story my mom had told me.
Those are some great ancestors.
He said that with a smile. As we continued talking, we grew closer.
So, if you don't mind, would you go out with me, Emily?
Eventually, he confessed his feelings, and we started dating. It seems he really does have a strong sixth sense, as he would sometimes look scared at nothing.
When I'm with you, I feel safe because bad things don't come near.
According to Michael, the ancestors watching over me protect us from anything bad. Because of that, he said he feels calm and at peace whenever we're together. I feel happy when I'm with you too, Michael.
In that case, why don't we get married?
And so we decided to get married. My parents liked him as well, and we enjoyed a peaceful married life. Although we are happy now, it was tough before we got married.
My dad is fine, but my sister, Laura, is a handful.
According to Michael, his sister Laura is a difficult person. His dad, Robert, has always taken Michael's stories seriously and has always been on his side. However, Laura, who was spoiled by their mom, Rachel, is different. She always thinks she's the best and that her opinion is the only correct one.
I've never gotten along with Laura since we were kids. I pretty much left home like I was running away from her.
Laura doesn't believe in anything supernatural and has always called Michael a liar. Because of this, Michael and Laura don't get along at all.
Mom always spoiled Laura.
Rachel, who has already passed away, doted on Laura. Laura, raised by Rachel, who never disciplined her and spoiled her, grew up to be selfish, causing Robert a lot of trouble.
Above all, Laura looks down on me. She might say something terrible to you, Emily.
It's okay. I won't let it bother me, no matter what she says. I said this to Michael, but I was a little worried. I'd never had someone like that around me before. Technically, there were people who talked badly about me, but I kept my distance from them. However, this time it was family, so I couldn't avoid it.
Honestly, Laura and I are practically estranged, so you don't have to force yourself to get along with her.
Sensing my anxiety, Michael said this gently. His kind words and smile reassured me, and I nodded. I'm with such a kind person. Everything will be fine. Then, on the day we went to introduce ourselves, I nervously visited Michael's family home.
You seem like a kind Emily. Please take care of Michael.
Robert seemed like a gentle person and warmly welcomed me. I felt relieved by his kind demeanor, similar to Michael's.
Wait, why is Michael here?
Just then, a woman appeared before us. As soon as he saw her, the smile on Michael's face turned to disgust.
Why are you here? You weren't supposed to be here today.
It's none of your business.
Watching their exchange, I quickly realized that this woman was Michael's sister, Laura.
Weren't you going shopping?
I realized I didn't have any money. Dad, can I have some allowance?
Michael's sister must be an adult by now, and yet she's asking her dad for allowance. As I was internally taken aback by her behavior, she looked at me.
Who is she?
She is my fiancée.
What? Michael, you're getting married?
As she stared wide-eyed, I hurriedly introduced myself. Laura looked me up and down and then laughed.
She looks so plain. Michael, you have such bad taste.
I never expected such a reaction, and I was completely stunned.
How rude. Emily, let's go.
Michael grabbed my arm as I stood frozen,
Oh, running away.
and Lauren laughed and Robert scolded her. Then we left the house.
I'm really sorry about Laura.
When we got back to the apartment we shared, Michael apologized to me. Don't apologize so much. I was just a bit surprised. When I said that, he sighed in relief, but his expression looked a bit weary. Michael, what's wrong?
Actually, Mom was behind Laura. She kept saying, "My cute little Laura" and "my useless son Michael."
So that's why his mood suddenly changed. That must have been tough. You should get some rest today.
Thank you, Emily.
With that, Michael went into the bedroom. He really is exhausted. I watched his tired figure disappear into the room. Still, to show favoritism between siblings. When I heard Michael's story, I honestly couldn't believe it. My parents loved me, the youngest, and my siblings equally, so I never felt any favoritism. I couldn't believe there were people who would change their attitude just because someone was a sister or a brother. But well, I'll just have to give Michael all the love he didn't get from Rachel. I muttered to myself and decided to love Michael more than ever. After meeting each other's families, we spent our days busy preparing for the wedding. However, I couldn't neglect my work. So I was quite busy at the office as well.
Hey, isn't that Emily?
What? On my way to a meeting room, someone called out to me and I stopped. It was Laura. I never expected to see her at the same company, and I froze again. Seeing me like that, Laura smirked.
So you work at this company.
Well, thank you for the other day. The meeting time was approaching, but I couldn't ignore her. So I made the minimum polite greeting and tried to leave.
What a waste of time that was. And to think you're one of our clients.
You've got to be kidding me. It seemed she was from the company we were about to have a meeting with.
Good to know. Looking forward to working with you.
Yes, looking forward to it too. I managed to respond while listening to her brag as we walked to the meeting room. However, her demeanor completely changed during the meeting.
I have high hopes for you, Emily.
I've heard great things about you. I'm excited to work together.
Both my boss, Steve, and Laura's boss, John, expressed their high expectations for me.
Even though you look so plain.
Normally, I would be thrilled to hear such praise, but her glaring made it hard to feel happy. Then John sighed deeply.
You should try to follow her example.
Right after that, I felt a chilling gaze. Laura's eyes were filled with obvious dislike and hostility towards me. For the first time, I was at a loss for words under such a gaze.
Is something wrong?
No, nothing at all. I glanced at Laura again. She was no longer looking at me. However, I couldn't shake the chills.
Really? Laura went at your company?
I immediately consulted it with Michael. He didn't know that Laura was with the client either. His surprised expression showed his concern for me.
Are you okay? How are you feeling?
I had chills earlier, but I'm okay now. According to Michael, it seems that Rachel, who was attached to Laura, saw me as an enemy but was stopped by my ancestors.
Emily, let's talk to Steve about this. Honestly, we don't know what Laura might do.
Nodding at his suggestion, we spoke to Steve about Laura. We didn't mention what Michael had seen, but explained that she was his estranged sister and would be part of the family soon.
I see. But Emily, you're crucial for this project. I'll discuss it with them.
The project revolves around an app I developed. Therefore, I have to be involved no matter what. On the other hand, it seemed Laura had insisted on tagging along with John.
Don't worry, I'll make sure it succeeds.
Laura was enthusiastic, but her behavior was embarrassing. Steve had already considered excluding her from the project. In the end, Laura was removed from the project, deepening our rift.
I'll never forgive you.
Angry over the situation, she tried to cause trouble for us.
Enough is enough.
Not only did Robert scold her, but he also finally kicked her out of the house. As a result, Laura had to urgently find a new place to live, leaving her with no time to bother us. However, Laura wasn't the type to back down.
I will never bless your marriage, and you two will never be happy.
She said this with a laugh just before being kicked out of the house. Her words gave me a bad feeling.
Don't worry about Laura. I'll make you happy.
And so we got married. Contrary to Laura's words, we enjoyed a happy life after our wedding. Then something wonderful happened.
Congratulations.
I found out I was pregnant. When I told Michael, my parents, and Robert, everyone was overjoyed. I was thrilled too, but pregnancy was quite challenging. I had severe morning sickness. The baby was in a breech position and other difficulties, but I persevered to have this baby. Normally, Michael would support me, but he was busy making up for my absence at work.
I'm really sorry.
Don't worry about it. Just focus on work for both of us. Because of this, I couldn't rely on Michael as much as I wanted. I would have asked my parents for help, but since they were in the country, it was difficult to meet them. Could it be? Laura's words crossed my mind. Could Laura have cursed me? No, that's impossible. I understood spiritual matters because of Michael, but I couldn't believe in curses. Even if there is a curse, I won't let it defeat me. I whispered this to myself while rubbing my belly, making a firm resolution. Perhaps because of this determination, my baby continued to grow healthily. Finally, the day arrived.
Emily, hang in there.
The childbirth was extremely difficult. No matter how many hours passed, our baby wouldn't come out. I clung to consciousness, gritting my teeth to endure.
You two will never be happy.
Her mocking words echoed in my mind. That won't happen. I will be happy with Michael and our baby. Determined, I fought to give birth to our baby.
I'm sorry. I'm late.
5 hours after the birth, Michael rushed in, and just seeing him made me feel relieved. Look, this is our daughter. I showed our baby to Michael, expecting him to be overjoyed. However, his reaction was completely unexpected.
What? No, this can't be.
Michael? Contrary to my expectations, Michael began to tremble.
Why did this happen?
What's wrong? What happened? I was confused by his reaction. Then I noticed that his gaze wasn't directed at me or our daughter. Michael, what are you seeing? I asked, thinking his sixth sense was showing him something.
Actually,
Michael began to speak hesitantly, explaining the situation. His words left me in complete shock.
actually, my mom was just here. She was trying to possess our newborn daughter, and she said, I don't want the child of someone who torments Laura.
Michael tried to stop her, but he doesn't have the ability to perform exorcisms. So all he could do was tremble in fear.
Then my dad appeared.
His words took me by surprise. He was undoubtedly talking about Robert. But Robert is still alive.
I was confused because my dad shouldn't have appeared.
Robert and Rachel then disappeared together. That's when Michael muttered, "Why did this happen?"
We don't know the whole truth, but let's just be happy about our daughter's birth.
Michael then looked at our daughter. His expression was full of love and tenderness. Seeing him genuinely happy about her birth made me smile too. But the next day, when Michael came to the hospital, he looked pale. Michael, what's wrong? Seeing him so different from the day before, I asked in a panic.
My dad was in a car accident yesterday.
What? The kind Robert? He had been looking forward to holding our daughter. How could Robert be in a car accident? How bad are his injuries? When I asked, Michael shook his head.
He didn't make it.
His words left my mind blank. According to Michael, Robert was the victim of a hit and run. By the time a passerby noticed him lying on the ground, he had already passed away. Moreover, this happened just as I was in labor, struggling with the pain.
It really was Dad who helped us back then.
That might be true. Knowing the kind-hearted Robert, he must have been watching over me, concerned for my well-being. Then, just when Rachel appeared to harm our daughter, Robert protected us. Michael nodded with a tearful expression at my words. His feelings were likely more painful than I could imagine.
Dad protected us. Now it's my turn to protect both of you.
Michael said as he held me and our daughter tightly. His expression showed a sense of resolve, and his gaze seemed to be looking beyond me. Perhaps he was seeing something I couldn't. Michael?
Your ancestors are telling me a lot. It's time to settle things with Laura.
At that moment, I didn't understand why he mentioned Laura, but a few months later, I would come to know what he meant. After that, without any major issues, I was able to return home safely.
Hi, Emily and Mary.
Michael warmly welcomed us. Mary is the name of our daughter, our precious, beloved child. If there is anyone who would harm our daughter, I will confront them head on. As we looked at Mary's peacefully sleeping face, I made a firm resolution.
Shall we go?
Yes, let's go. We left Mary with my parents for a short while and went to a certain place.
What? Why are you here?
We went to the company where Laura works. We had obtained permission from our client in advance and arranged to use a meeting room for a discussion.
What do you want?
Our daughter, Mary, was born recently.
Laura's already displeased expression twisted even more.
Gosh, so I failed. And what about it?
You were trying to harm Mary to get back at us, weren't you?
Michael's cold words made Laura's shoulders shake. He must have hit the mark. Laura has a high ego and can't stand not being number one. Feeling that I had hurt her pride, she plotted to harm what was most precious to me, Mary, to get her revenge.
You mistakenly thought Emily was out to get you and tried to take Mary away from her. But Dad stopped you.
Even after kicking Laura out, Robert was watching to see if he could do anything to help. He noticed Laura's plans to harm me and Mary and tried to intervene and convince her otherwise.
You saw Dad as an obstacle, so you ran him over, didn't you? Probably thought you could get some inheritance too.
Laura flinched at Michael's words. On the day Robert had his accident, he actually confronted Laura in front of her workplace.
Stop bothering Michael and Emily, and don't do anything stupid.
Robert had warned Laura. Infuriated, Laura ran him over on his way home.
You know I have a sixth sense, right? Dad told me everything.
Hearing from Robert, Michael realized he couldn't reveal Laura's crime without evidence. So while I was in the hospital, he investigated.
It was hard to find, but I finally got it on a dash cam.
Got what?
A video of Dad walking and your car speeding toward him.
Even the police hadn't found it, but Michael's persistence paid off. He showed Laura a copy of the evidence. Laura looked down for a moment after seeing the evidence and muttered,
Oh my God, this is the worst. Why do you and Dad always have to mess things up for me?
Then she looked at us with an annoyed expression.
It's always been like that. Mom would listen to anything I said, but you two just kept getting in my way.
Of course we did.
Michael, not backing down from Laura's glare, began to share his long-held feelings.
You believed Mom when she said, "The world is yours," and you've done whatever you wanted since then.
As a child, she would take toys from others, and in school, she caused trouble by going after other people's boyfriends. And it was always Robert who cleaned up her messes.
Because of you, I was always known as the spoiled brat's brother. And despite keeping my sixth sense a secret within the family, you spread rumors that I was a liar, causing me endless trouble. You've always been the problem.
But unlike you, I only had Mom on my side.
You brought it on yourself.
No one wants to be around a selfish person, especially one who causes them trouble.
Even so, Dad tried to take responsibility for you until the end. But now he's gone. It's time for you to take responsibility for yourself.
Michael told Laura with a fierce glare. Despite being intimidated, Laura glared back.
What if Dad hadn't interfered?
He did what any father would do. By the way, what were you doing during Dad's funeral?
Robert's funeral was held while I was still in the hospital. Later, I managed to pay my respects, but Laura never showed up.
That's none of your business.
You're right. It's not anymore.
Laura looked shocked at his words.
You're no longer my sister.
Ignoring Laura, Michael continued. After that, Laura was arrested for her involvement in Robert's death. She might also face additional charges for obstructing the police during her arrest.
Let's completely cut ties with Laura.
So we decided to sever all ties with Laura. Are you sure? She's your only remaining family, Michael.
My family is you, Emily, and Mary.
Michael smiled. He was not alone. However, I still had some concerns. She won't come after me or Mary again, right?
Don't worry. In the end, she can't do anything on her own.
Until now, Rachel and Robert, each in their own way, had protected her. Rachel took care of Laura's needs and made arrangements to ensure she was okay even after her passing. Robert, despite his anger at Laura's actions, couldn't completely cut her off and continued to look after her. Without them, Laura was overwhelmed just trying to manage it on her own.
So, as long as we keep our distance, we'll be fine.
Laura was fired over this incident. Apparently, her reputation at the company was already poor.
An investigation revealed that she was taking credit for her co-workers' work and using insulting language and behavior.
As a result, no one defended her, and she was let go. After that, we decided to relocate. The app I developed was a big success, leading to the creation of a new branch. I was assigned as the branch manager, with Michael as my assistant, once I returned from maternity leave. I can't believe it's close to my parents' house. This means I can easily rely on my parents for help. I'm excited about raising Mary with everyone.
I'm looking forward to it too.
Michael looked relieved. Being free from Laura might have brought about a change in his feelings. By the way, what were my ancestors doing?
They were primarily there to protect you, and my dad was there too.
Despite Rachel's efforts, she couldn't overcome Robert. Thanks to him, Mary was born safely. Perhaps because of that, Laura ended up taking matters into her own hands and got rid of Robert. We owe so much to Robert. Just recently, Robert's will was found. Maybe he had sensed something too. The will stated, "Nothing for Laura. I want my assets used for Mary's future." Now it's our turn to protect Mary.
Yes, absolutely.
Robert is surely watching over Mary as she grows. To put Robert's mind at ease, let's protect her ourselves. Michael and I made that promise to each other. After that, Laura was sentenced to prison. She was on the news as the terrible daughter who committed a hit and run on her father. Now she has no place to go. Even when she gets out, everyone will recognize her, so she won't have anywhere to belong. Also, The house Robert and Laura used to live in is up for sale. Everyone is cooperating by not revealing where we've moved, so we can focus on raising Mary in peace. Just then, I heard Mary crying while watching the news. Smiling, I went to her.
Emily, did you see the news?
Yes, I did. Michael, who had just come home, spoke to me while holding Mary.
Apparently, the company received a letter from her.
Really?
Yeah. One of my coworkers thought we should know and told me.
The letter supposedly said, "I'm remorseful, and please help me." Apparently, they read it and then tore it up.
She caused so much trouble and hurt so many people. It's unreasonable for her to think anyone would help her.
I nodded in agreement with him. A few years later, as Mary continues to grow healthily, Michael and I are busy with work, finding comfort in her presence.
Mommy, guess what?
What is it, Mary?
Grandpa says thank you.
I tilted my head at Mary's words. I thought she was talking about my dad, her grandfather. But would my dad really send a message like that? Mary, where is this grandpa? When I asked, Mary pointed to an empty spot. That reminded me of what my mom and Michael had told me in the past. You are just like me. Just as my ancestors used to keep me happy. Robert must be watching over Mary in the same way. Thank you so much.
Mommy?
Let's have a snack. Mary responded with a smile, and her cheerful demeanor soothed me once again.
So, Dad is still watching over us.
When I told Michael, who had just come home, he spoke with a sense of deep emotion.
Let's go visit him together soon.
I nodded with a smile at his words.
Yay!
Mary also replied with a bright smile. A few days later, during a long weekend, we visited the land where Robert's house used to be for the first time in a while.
Oh,
Michael's gaze was fixed in a particular direction. Following his gaze, I saw a woman in tattered clothes, walking unsteadily. I thought she looked familiar. Could that be Laura?
probably.
Michael responded while looking away. He quickly lost interest and picked up Mary with a smile. I glanced back at Laura before following Michael. Later, I confirmed with a former colleague that the woman was indeed Laura.
She's working multiple part-time jobs, just scraping by each day.
She must be struggling a lot. I remembered her looking much older than her actual age and felt a bit of pity. Michael probably wouldn't feel the same. Maybe she's finally facing the consequences of her actions. Her misfortune would likely continue, because, as it was her just desserts. Later, I heard from the same colleague that Laura had been arrested for theft. I need to forget about her quickly. I need to forget about Laura and focus on being happy with my family. I'm sure Robert would want that. Well, I have to work hard. As the branch manager, I have a lot of responsibilities. Even though Michael helps me as my assistant, I need to do my best. I also want to create a new app. I envisioned a game that even small children could play. I might have less time to spend with Mary. But if she can play with the app I create, it would be a way to stay connected.
That sounds great. Let me help. It's a gift for Mary, after all.
Michael said with a smile, having fully moved on. Not wanting to be outdone by him, I decided to put in my best effort too. Eventually, the app we created became a worldwide sensation.
I love this game.
Mary said with a beaming smile. We were genuinely delighted by her words. As our achievements were recognized, we advanced even further in our careers.
Maybe cutting ties with her brought us all this good fortune.
It's the result of our hard work.
You're right.
We began a new journey together, determined to be happy. A few more years later, I was busy with my duties as a branch manager.
Mom, Grandpa says not to overwork yourself.
Sorry about that. Apparently, Mary could still see Robert. She might have inherited this ability from Michael.
But he doesn't appear to me.
Michael had only seen Robert on the day Mary was born. Maybe Robert is just shy. After Rachel passed away, her ghostly appearance had frightened Michael quite a bit.
Maybe that's why he doesn't show up in front of me.
I'd love to see Robert too. As I whispered this, a breeze passed between us. It felt as if he was telling us that he was by our side, even if we couldn't see him.
Daddy. Mommy. Hurry up.
Okay. We smiled and headed towards Mary, who was calling us with a bright smile.
Mary is quite a handful.
Now I'm sticking with my mom and dad because I'm going to be a big sister soon.
We exchanged glances at her words. A few days later, a visit to the hospital confirmed that I was pregnant with our second child. We promised to embrace this new life and be happy together.